Namaskar viewers and welcome to this astrology show Debunking Mythology. As we all know that we have been told a lot of historical records from the point of view of faith-based colonizers. And why I say faith-based colonizers is that they had no other objective but to destroy the history and the identity of the natives which they conquered. Now, in this show today, I have a very prominent guest who has done a lot of research on timelines, especially Vedic timelines. And as we all know, in many of the past shows, you have seen that how the Vedic timelines differ from the chronological Western timelines. And the imposition of Western timelines on ancient history is not a good habit or has never produced a good result. So, with that in mind, I have a guest. You have heard him before, you liked his videos, Ved Veer Arya. So, Dr. Ved Veer Arya. So, let us all welcome him. Namaskar.
Namaskar and good morning to all viewers from USA.
So, Ved Veer Arya ji, you've done a very scientific analysis on the dates. And even though we rely on the dates, but I always say the message of Ram and Krishna is more important than any dates as far as the faith goes. So the viewers who are watching this is just for our own academic interest, so that we know exactly the time frame in which it happened and how the time frames of the cycle of the universe is way different than our time cycles. I would say that our time cycles are in hours and their time cycles are in kalpa, which is a very large calculation of numbers. So just to increase our faith, we are having this discussion. So, but it's a very scientific discussion. So I'll ask certain questions to Vedveer and Aryaji, and then you all can ask questions later on. So coming back to the dates, which the last presentation we had. So what is the basis of arrival of these dates by you?
Yes, Aditya. As on whatever the textbooks have been written during the colonial era, it means somewhere 1785 when Asiatic Society was established in Calcutta by Sir William Jones. Thereafter, there was some scientific historical research took place in India. What they did, they just assumed that whatever the traditional chronology is more mythology. So they started reconciling the timelines. Even today, in our textbooks, there is no chronology beyond Buddha. Then we simply, some way within 1,000 years, we narrate entire history of India, 1500 to 500 BC, some entire Vedic chronology. And our all timelines, whatever has been narrated in a traditional sources, have no basis what the modern historians propagate. Actually, there is a chronological error of 1381 years in dating of Buddha itself. It's a huge error that I will take up in some other day, because that needs a very logical not only verification as well as the establishing the various facts, epigraphic, literary and others. Today, let us go beyond that, because Mahabharata took place at the end of Dwapara Yuga, Ramayana took place at the end of Treta Yuga, and Mayasura wrote Surya Siddhanta at the end of Krita Yuga. Then we start 7th Manvantara, beginning when Vaivasvata Manu existed. Then beyond that, 6 Manvantaras. How to calculate these timelines? Because traditionally those, I think almost lakhs and crores of 432 crores years of the creation, and the 432 crores of years is the pralaya or destruction. But within those timelines, 197 crores years have been elapsed as per the, we can say, some theological and astronomical calculations. But what is the historical timeline? This is the research, because a concept of yuga has been evolved from Vedic era to till Mahabharata era. How that evolution has been took place, whether all lakhs of crores of years what we assume today, whether the same calculation existed beyond Ramayana era during the post-Vedic era or Vedic era. As per the traditional chronological order is Vedic era, post-Vedic era, then Ramayana era, then Mahabharata era. And
So
that
just
exactly we can establish.
just a point for viewers. 1 crore is 10 million. So when you say crore, then you multiply by 10, so which is a million.
Yes. So what I'll do, I'll just explain how the concept of yuga has been evolved. So let us understand what is yuga. During the early Rigvedic era, the rishis are a Brahma. Brahma was also a rishi, because later what happened, our own historical personalities have become the deities. It's not that our philosophy or our theology has been evolved around our history also. Like we worship Rama, we remember Krishna, they were a historic personality. Even Rigveda, they have the Rigvedic hymns have a deities like Indra, even Adityas, then Marut, even Agni. So they were also a historic personalities in a very beginning of the Vedic era. So now let us understand how the yuga has been, because the Brahma started calculating the astronomical positions of stars as well as the moon and sun. Then he evolved a lunisolar calendar. The introduction of lunisolar calendar led to a reconciliation, because lunar cycle and solar cycle has to be reconciled. So 5-year yuga has been taken for intercalation and reconciling the lunar calendar and solar calendar. So this was the beginning of the, in entire Vedic literature, only 5-year yuga has been mentioned. When 5-year yuga has been become 1200 years, then 1200 years yuga became 12,000 years, then 12,000 years have been multiplied by 360, thus became 43 lakhs 20,000 years. So what I'll do, I'll just quickly show you how this timelines for the initially the Rigvedic era, it was only 5-year yuga, and Chatur Yuga was at 20 years. So this 5-year yuga and 20 years Chatur Yuga was in vogue till 6777 BC. I will just explain how I got this epoch, 677 BC. After 6777 BC.
I'll pause you. Just a question here while you are doing it.
Yes.
Is it even necessary to even consider BC or AD calculations?
No, since now the modern world understand only these timelines, so I'm just explaining in that way. Otherwise, I think there is a lot to reform. I think what Grigori has done 1582 around, now there is a serious need for the doing the calendrical reforms, and we have to introduce much bigger epoch. That I will be explaining you why we have to take Surya Siddhanta as the epoch for entire world.
Exactly.
So this is the 677 BCE. At that time, what happened? We have introduced the yuga. The 5-year yuga became 1200 years, because this was the transition from just nakshatra-based calculation has shifted to the Jovian cycle also, because Jupiter cycle was introduced, and after that only our all Kumbh Melas have been introduced in India, celebrating the Kumbh Melas once in every 12 years. So that 12 years became the unit. So 1200 years they have taken as a one yuga. Thereafter they found it that no, this 1200 years is a short. Then they have gone into differential duration and 12,000 years of Chatur Yuga. That took place after Ramayana era, around 5577 BC. Somewhere in the middle, 4300 or 4000 BC, the yuga length has been increased to 43 lakhs 20,000 years. How they did it? Just 12,000 multiplied by 360. That this is the Chatur Yuga span. Thereafter, we have kept on multiplying Chatur Yugas and came with the idea of 432 crores mean 4,320 million years. So the lakhs and crores are millions of years. Actually, that was not the early tradition. It is a very later tradition where the Indian astronomers wanted a big numbers to adjust the fractions. Because when you calculate fractions, you have to take the big number base, then your accuracy will increase. So for accuracy in astronomical calculations, the Indian astronomers expanded the length of yugas. So the epoch, till now we generally talk about Mahabharata date around 32nd century BC, and we never gone beyond how to fix. So now I am giving one exact date, that is the 22nd February 6778 BC. How this has come? Because in the Surya Siddhanta, it is clearly mentioned that there was a very great conjunction in Aries. All 5 planets, Sun and Moon, they were in a conjunction within 26 degrees. And just I'll show you this small clip. How you yourself can try. You select the JPL horizon as a time correction. And this is the 22nd February 6778 BT in Aries. You can see exactly Sun is in the middle, Venus is the east side, and the Mercury is on the west side. And Mercury at the west end, and the east end is Venus. Exactly the Sun is in between. The 13 degrees, the difference both ways, plus minus 13 degrees. This position has been exactly narrated in Surya Siddhanta. And the Mayasura took this because this conjunction took place on Chaitra Shukla Pratipada. Means Indians followed a calendar either from the new moon or full moon. Since it's on new moon this took place, and the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada became an epoch for the calendar. Because when all planets are together, then you can calculate the exact position of the planet in any number of years. So that's why a conjunction is very, very important to begin a calendar. This is how Surya Siddhanta Mayasura used this as an epoch. So now, as per the tradition, he wrote at the end of Krita Yuga. So 6778 BC was the 4th year. 6777 BC was the last year of the Krita Yuga.
So,
this is why I took.
Yeah, just one point here. Some people are asking, and I know I understand what you mean, but epoch, what do you mean by epoch here?
Epoch means a calendar, the beginning, when you start the 0 year.
Correct.
And the first day. That is an epoch. Because I am talking about calendar here. Because all yugas followed a calendar. The concept of yuga actually is a calendar. It's not anything, some hypothetical timelines we were following since Vedic era. It's exactly because Indian civilization is a continuous civilization from the beginning of Brahma's lifetime. And the Swayambhu Manu was the first king, a Manu dynasty. So this is what history has been narrated to us in traditional sources. So this becomes a sheet anchor for calculation of yugas. Now there is another shloka in Mahabharata and Bhagavata Purana stating that the first Krita Yuga of the 7th Manvantara, that began when Sun, Moon and Jupiter were in conjunction in Pushya Nakshatra when vernal equinox took place. And this exactly took place somewhere 24th May 7321 BC. Actually, the year was 7322-7321 BCE because that time Vedic Yuga calendar used to commence from the autumnal equinox. If all Rigvedic mantras talk about Jivema Sharada Shatam, Pashyema Sharada Shatam, Shrunuyama Sharada Shatam. So they always talk about Sharad Ritu because the calendar of Vedic era always commenced from an autumnal equinox during that time. So that autumnal equinox somewhere in the December 7322, the first Krita Yuga began 7th Manvantara. If you calculate 5 and 20 years, exactly the 28th Krita Yuga was 6782 BC, so 677 BC. After that, we have abandoned using the this 5-year yuga, though calendar continued, but the calculation of 5-year yuga has been stopped and adopted 1200 years. So this is the one, because exactly yada chandrashcha suryascha tishya brihaspati. Tishya means Pushya Nakshatra. It is somewhere in the Cancer, that Pushya Nakshatra. So during that time, in 7003, and it is a very good epoch. At the same time, the winter solstice shifted to Ashwini Nakshatra. So this is the beginning of our nakshatra list that begins from Ashwini Nakshatra onwards. So this is how our, even the Greek historians say that 6,500 years or 400 years, the Indians count 135 kings or something till the Alexander's arrival. Actually, they are using this epoch. So Indians had the memory, some 7,000 around, when the winter solstice shifted to Ashwini Nakshatra. Then we have reset the nakshatras. Prior to that, we, in the Rigvedic, in a post-Rigvedic era, we are followed Kritika Nakshatra onwards. That's why Atharva Veda talks about starting from Kritika Nakshatra onward. So that is around 9,200 BCE, that Nakshatra Sukta of Atharva Veda was recompiled to just reset the nakshatra from Kritika. If you go back, then somewhere 11,200 BCE, that was the Mrigashira Adi, because we started counting the nakshatras from Orion, because that time Prajapati, the Daksha, he had 27 daughters. So that was the first list of nakshatras beginning from the Orion. So thereafter we have the, if we calculate, then what we should do, 28th Krita Yuga ended 6777 BCE, what I told. Now you have to back calculate only 5-year yugas. So how many yugas have been elapsed? 1,837 yugas, because 6 manvantras into 72 would be around plus 27 Chatur yugas and 4 more yugas. Then 1,837 yugas have been elapsed, means 9,185 years, or we can say 459 Chaturyugas have been elapsed till 677 BC. So this is the 460th Chaturyuga presently, from the beginning of onwards. So if we just add on these 9,185 years in 6,077 BCE, the epoch goes to somewhere 1,562 BC. Around 16,000 BCE, that was the very proto-Vedic era, when Indians have introduced the earliest calendar, earliest lunisolar calendar. This is the epoch of our calendrical astronomy. Thereafter, somewhere 14,500, that's why what I generally come up with the timeline of Indian history. The proto-Vedic period, because we don't know the history, we were using
is
the
it the
calendar.
Indian history or the global history?
The Indian history, but it is linked to the entire world chronology also. How that is linked, I will explain. First is, that is the Indian timeline. First, those 1500 years we were using, but that was the mostly very crude way of just counting the years, 5 years, and somehow we are reconciling summer solstice to summer solstice. Somewhere 14,500 BC, Brahma introduced a calendar starting from the Dhanishta Nakshatra. That time summer solstice used to occur at Dhanishta. So Dhanishta was in the Capricorn, that nakshatra. So in the Capricorn sunshine, the summer solstice used to occur. But what happened in after 1,000 years, it is written in Mahabharata that Vishwamitra reset the nakshatra starting from Shravana. Why? Because the precession. Due to precession, the summer solstice shifted from Dhanishta to Shravana nakshatra. So this has been mentioned. Even Gopata Brahmana says Vishwamitra was the first person who has observed this precession. They called it Sampata. The word used in Sanskrit was Sampata. That was the precession. But actually, we all say that somebody in the Greece, I'm forgetting his name, I think he was the first person who came up with the idea of precession. But it was known to Indians since early Vedic era. Though they could not explain how, but every 1,000 years, the solstices and equinoxes shift to one nakshatra. This was known to the Vedic astronomers. So now the why I fixed Treta Yuga, because Krita Yuga ended 6777 BCE, but that time only Yuga was 1200 years. So Treta Yuga was only 1200 years. Thereafter, 12,000 years Chatur Yuga came. That's why Dwapar Yuga had a 2400 years.
See, it is mentioned that Dashrath, just one king, Dashrath,
Yes.
ruled. So Bhagwan Ram ruled for 11,000 years,
Yes.
and Dashrath also ruled for around 11 to 36,000 years.
Yes.
So how do you accommodate that? I'm sorry, I'm
Yes.
challenging you on
Yes,
this.
yes, yes, yes. Why? Because if you read Yuddha Kanda, the sixth one, go to the last 3-4 chapters. What it is said? Pura Valmiki na kritam. You know, Pura in ancient time, Valmiki na by Valmiki kritam. This poetry was written. So naturally, the presently available Valmiki Ramayana was recompiled somewhere around 1500 to 500 BC. Why they have to recompile? Because before that time, probably fragmentary Ramayana may be available. Then already Rama became a incarnation of Vishnu, and he attained that divinity, and already people started worshipping. So Balakanda, if you say Narada and then Valmiki, they meet and they talk about a great person who incarnated from. So these are all a theological narration has been added, but actual history, the other shlokas remained as it is. So some way he reconstructed, recompiled. So at that time, already we went into 43 lakhs 20,000 years yugas. So I told you, 12,000 multiplied by 360, what you have to do? Now 11,000 divided by 360. It comes 30 years or 31 years. So Rama reigned for only 31 years. Since we have expanded the yuga length, so what we did, we just multiplied by 360 and said that Rama reigned for 11,000 years. So this actually you have to multiply. Rama, at the age of 25 years, he went for Vanavasa. 14 years he was. At the 39 to 40 years age, he killed Ravana and came back to Ayodhya, and he ruled for 31 years. Around 71 years of age, he himself willingly left the world in Sarayu River, as per the history. So the 31 years have been multiplied by 360. That's why a person who recompiled somewhere 1500 to 500 BC, he assumed that Rama reigned for 11,000 years due to the length of yugas have been expanded. So we have to, what to do? The Sattology means we have to separate history from the mythology.
Exactly. That's the point.
There are some mythological exaggeration do happen. Even today, when you make a historical fiction or historical movie, you make it more spicy and you give some very dramatic events. That does not mean that historicity is in doubt. It's only a poetry. Poetry has to be narrated in a way to attract the people.
Now, I can tell you about the Greek exaggerations. So in the Greek books, they explain Porus as 7 feet man, a giant. He was a giant, but they explained him so big as if like Alexander was fighting a Goliath, according to the Western mythology. And they explained that his arrows were very long, 2 meter long. But so in one arrow, Porus would kill 3 soldiers of Greeks, and that's how there were more Greek casualties when Alexander attacked. So we already debunked that the Alexander got defeated in India, and he ran back injured, and he lost his life in Babylon, which is Basra. Now coming back
he could not even cross that river where Porus was standing. So finally,
exactly, he didn't even cross the river. So entire invasion.
But some
of
European
India,
historians, they just on hearsay they wrote some history. So they more wrote fiction than the history.
Exactly, like their mention of who they met, Chandragupta Maurya, Sendracotus, is totally different because according to our history or Puranic history, like you also mentioned the right dates. It happened 13 to 1400 years before BC calculation, 0 BC, which is, I totally agree with you on that dates of Buddha. So the Gautam Buddha that they worship is some other person, which we do not know.
That we will certainly talk on the other day. Otherwise, we will lose the exact subject right now. So you were talking how this is linked with the other chronologies of the world.
Correct.
If you take the Tamilian, our own state in the south,
Yeah.
they have a counting of years starting from Agastya.
Mm.
They say around 4,440 years elapsed in the first Sangam, then 3,600 years in the second Sangam, and the third Sangam were 1,850 years, almost 10,000 years. But what I'll do, we have to correct that 1,300 years error in the Buddha dating, because Tamilian chronology is linked with the Sri Lankan chronology, because they link the Senguttuvan and Gajabahu as the contemporaries. Now the Gajabahu's timeline can only be calculated from the Buddha Nirvana. So when I corrected it, the third Sangam era ended around 1275 BC. From there onwards, go back to 10,000 years. It is around 11,250 BC, 266 or 226 BC. This was the exact time where Shiva existed, Agastya existed, and that perfectly matches the chronological timelines what I gave just presented. Because 11,200 was the Vaivasvanta, the Manu's time. At the same time, Shiva, even Agastya, they were existed. So this is how the Tamilian chronology, their timelines also matches. And surprisingly, in the Burma, actually Burma, before Buddhism, Ikshvaku kings were ruling in Burma. From Burma was the gateway for the entire Southeast Asia. This is how Ramayana traveled from Burma to Malaysia, from Thailand, Malaysia, then from there it went to Cambodia, Indonesia. So what they used to count one Kautsa era, they called it, probably the Kautsa. In Rigvedic Rishi, a Kautsa Rishi, they count around 8,640 years elapsed, 68 years before Buddha's birth. So what I fixed Buddha's birth around 1944 BC, and he attained Nirvana 1864 BC. So 1944, if you add another 68, then it becomes 2022 is the year. From there, you have to go back to 8,640. That becomes 10,652 BC was the almost end of the Rigvedic era. This is how these timelines. And even you take the Orion, I think whether you might have heard that the Hancock of the British archaeologist and historian, based on the erosion and others, he dated the Sphinx of Egypt. It should be somewhere 10,800 BC to somewhere 9,500 BC. So these astronomical, even the Göbekli Tepe found in Turkey, that dated around 10,000 BC. And exactly one astrophysicist from Hyderabad, his name is Siddhartha. He is the head of that Birla Planetarium. He has established and he has shown that there is a head, a priest head has been found. It has the shikha, the pigtail, what they call, what is called in English. It has a shikha. A shikha is the completely Vedic tradition. And still that exists in the Turkish museum there. So these links we have to re-establish how Indians migrated during the who are then there's the Asuras. Our own Devas, Asuras had a political fight in India. Then Asuras have to migrate westward because Devas dominating the all Indian regions. So when they migrated, so they migrated up to Anatolia. Then finally entire East Europe, and why the Europeans and Central Asians have the R1A1 genes, because the origin was India. So we can genetically also establish. But modern genetic historians, what they just start from the 4,000, 2000 BC only. They don't go beyond that. They think that there is no history of India if you go beyond 2000 BC. So there is no genetic profile.
No, most of the modern historians, they do come up with large numbers. Like for example, American, like when America was populated, is widely recognized to be around 14,000 to 70,000 years. They say it's a publicly available source. For the Turkey and other places, also the word Indo has been attached everywhere, whether it's Indo-European, Indo-Aryan.
Yes.
So I think we have to interpret is that Indians migrated north. or east or west. That's
Both
okay to
sides.
say it.
Yes.
And I think
Both sides.
Krishna also corroborates it in the episode in Mahabharata when he's talking to Yudhishthir about Jarasan. He says
Yes.
the after Parshuram's thing, the the low class Kshatriya went west, the high class Kshatriya went east. They ran away
Yes.
from Parshuram. And
Yes.
if somebody can correlate that Parshuram's date of Parshuram's war on Kshatriya
Yes.
and connect that to the existing known facts that who when the
Yes.
migration happened, because they are working on material facts from Alaska and eastern northeast Russia,
Yes.
and also material facts from the on the west side, especially
Yes.
Turkey, because Turkey has been really the Turkey of the world,
Yes.
where everyone has crossed through them. So
Yes. Yes.
they're always in the way. So now
Yes.
again they're in the way in many different ways. I will don't want to talk about in this program, but if somebody can correlate Parshuram and migration, I think the most of the history will get resolved, and the myth of Aryan invasion theory will be busted forever.
That myth of Aryan invasion, we need not even talk. Once we establish the Buddha Nirvana correctly, automatically these all false theories will be thrown away,
So,
because actually there is a big chronological error has been. Yeah, they could not correctly decipher the inscriptions and the various traditional evidences, because they just doubted the every source. So they just believed the first AD as the sheet anchor. So entire world chronology has been reconciled considering the first AD. But first AD is the Jesus birth itself is a first we have to establish, because there is no historical evidence to establish first AD as an historical epoch. An epoch for the Easter calculations, that is correct. But Jesus was born in first AD. Till date, no independently verifiable evidence is available. So right now, if you see the what you are saying, the migrations out of India, the earliest migration took place between Danavas and the Adityas, because the Aditi's sons were the Adityas, and if you saw Indra and the Vritrasura, so there was a great fight between Indra and Vritrasura. So during that time, that was the first migration. As per my calculation, this war took place somewhere 13,600 or 13,700 BC around. So these the Danu sons, when they migrated, that's why the earliest settlers of Greece were the Danans. Tenants. So, and as well as the Zoroastrians, their history, the Avesta history, is actually the prior to that it was called as an in Asura Veda as was different from the Veda, because different grammar they followed, only very small difference. So the Avestan language was actually the Asura Veda. Then around 7th, the earliest, the Zoroaster who wrote the Gathas of Avesta, he transformed the Asura Veda into a monotheism, Ahura Mazda. But after introduction of Surya Siddhanta, then Asura started following Surya Siddhanta. They started worshipping sun. Because if you are following a monotheism, then you should worship only Ahura Mazda. Why Zoroastrians started even worshipping sun? It is due to the Surya Siddhanta introduction. This is how the later, they call it some different, they are not Gathas. Avesta has some more portions which have the Mithra also became a deity. So this is how the origin of the Mithraism also linked to Surya Siddhanta. The entire Europe, they followed Mithraism. Why? Because this is the Surya Siddhanta followers started worshipping sun. The sun became Mithra. This is how the Mithraism, and that's why 25th December, a winter solstice. Why winter solstice was the birth of Mithra? Because Surya Siddhanta calendar used to begin from the winter solstice. This is how Mithras, and later Christ corrupted and they took over that winter solstice, and now they claim it a Christmas. Actually, Jesus never born on 25th December. He born somewhere 10th January, his exact date.
no, I think you're right. I think many Mexican traditions they follow a different date of birth of Jesus. So South
Yes.
Mexican and South Americans, they do follow 7th January, usually 7th January they follow.
Even Eastern and Byzantine, they celebrate even 6th or 7th January. They never celebrate around 25th.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
Um,
so it's a fantastic discussion. We can go on and on and on. And unfortunately, the time is up for the links to. So I would like to really thank you. And we'll continue this discussion because there are a lot of things to talk about. And we want to really talk about Buddha's appearance and how. And I think a lot of mythology has been taught to people in the name of education. And I think that our education system has to be blamed where there is no genuine research. I mean, most of the research is done for dollars, and which
yes,
is not the best research because it doesn't help the humanity.
yes.
And I think, thank you so much, Vedveer RAG. You are doing wonderful, trying to build an identity of so many people. And for viewers, history builds identity. If you don't have a history, you have no identity. And that's why these discussions are important. So, namaskar, and thank you for joining today.
Yeah, Namaskar. Thank you. Thank you.